What is going on? Welcome back. 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast, Season 3, Episode 16. My name is Frank Entwistle. We've got Mr. Lounis Amirat back for this Dynasty Podcast episode. We got Mr. Henkin. We got no JT today, unfortunately. I don't know what he's doing. He's driving or something. He said he was going north.
He's heading north.
The North remembers. The North remembers.
I just get a text message from him. Yeah, I can't be on tonight. I'm heading north. All right, man. Yeah, he's going to the wall. Speaking of a wall that just hit my fantasy team like fucking no other, and I imagine a lot of other contenders, Mr. Cooper Kupp is out for the foreseeable future. Yeah. It wasn't as bad of an injury as people said. I saw that. It looked horrible, right? Live, it looked terrible. And apparently there's no fracture, or if there is, it's only going to be a really small one. But at the same time, with the Rams' record, people are speculating that Cooper Kupp might just be done for the year, right? Hey, the season's done for them potentially. So he might just get shut down. Obviously, it sucks for the Cooper Kupp people, but I think the first thing we should get into, Allen Robinson, with no Cooper Kupp in the game, saw a 34% target share of the offense. Is Allen Robinson someone that people should be looking to buy right now, potentially? I imagine the guy that housed Allen Robinson would probably be looking at this as an opportunity to sell with how poorly he's been playing.
I was going to say, I think it's kind of the opposite with what you were saying the person who has Allen Robinson should do. I viewed it more as like, this season's been a shit show. His value is tanked. Like, here now you actually have a chance to like sell him for something, because I think that is a legit fear with, I don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to come back. I could say someone, I have Darren Waller in leagues where the Raiders are kind of in a similar position. They're 2-7, Rams 3-6. Darren Waller's also out for about 4 weeks, I think, as well as Cooper Kupp. I'm not expecting him back this season. I think they're just going to rest him for the rest of the year. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the Rams do the same thing. For me, I kind of get more interested in like guys like Van Jefferson, where it's possibly a little bit cheaper. And we haven't been able to see a whole ton of him this year. For Allen Robinson, I don't know. How much faith do you want to put into the Rams offense? Like, they're 3-6 now. I don't see them getting much better this season. At what point does like Stafford get shut down at a certain point? He just got injured. I know he's supposed to come back soon, but like if they just keep losing, so I don't know. I don't know if I'm making any moves. For people who have Cooper Kupp, it sucks though. Hopefully he does come back in like the 4-week span, because in that point he would be back in time for contenders who have him for the playoffs. But it's a scary situation, because I don't know if he's going to come back and be active again.
What's going on, Skull Dynasty? How you doing, dude? Yeah, I guess I agree that I'd probably be looking more into Van Jefferson simply because of the price. I just think that Van Jefferson, there's a decent shot you can only pick him up for a third. And he's a guy that had, I think it was last year, 900 yards. It hasn't been the smoothest of starts back from the injury, but he did squeak a touchdown. So if you started him, you were able to kind of salvage any sort of day out of him. And no one was really great with the John Wolford-led Rams offense against that Arizona Cardinals defense. But I guess last question is, if you're someone like me who has Cooper Kupp, is there anyone potentially that you're targeting to try and replace him at the receiver position? Obviously, you're not going to be able to replace his level of production unless you're going and buying maybe like Devontae Adams.
I was thinking more along the lines of DeAndre Hopkins. Someone like that, an older guy that's still putting up numbers that you can get for, a fairly reasonable price, probably early second, late first, maybe. And he's a guy that's been putting up great numbers since he's come off suspension. So that's someone I would be looking for as a contender to go after right now to replace that Cooper Kupp production.
Now, would you sell Cooper Kupp? Like, would you try to do like a Cooper Kupp for D-Hop at plus kind of move? Or is Cooper Kupp good enough to where it's just like, I'm just willing to just buy outright so that I have him for next year?
Honestly, I'm
not selling him, but I have seen people block him in leagues that I'm in.
I think if I'm selling him, I don't know if the D-Hop trade is the one I'm doing, but I do love the D-Hop idea in terms of just making a buy. if you have Kupp out, because D-Hop's been going off since he's come back, and because of his age, he's automatically, his value is going to get hit. Like, you're not paying really like a top 15 price for him, but you're going to get top 10, top 12 production for the rest of this season and probably even like next year. So that I think is a good aspect in that. And if I'm selling Cooper Kupp, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going for, what depends, like, what are you getting with DeAndre Hopkins? Is it a first?
Probably a second.
A second? And I'm assuming the person who has DeAndre Hopkins, that second's not going to be super early.
Well,
but I mean, we can assume
there's a variety of guys you can go after here that are going to replace this production. Like, I'm not opposed to going even as low as like a Tyler Boyd, who's been putting up good numbers without Jamar Chase. I know Chase is going to be back, but Tyler Boyd's not irrelevant in that offense, even with Chase there. So I think there's a multiple ways you can go about, replacing the production that Cooper Kupp puts up. Obviously, it's going to be very difficult because he's a guy that pretty much in any PPR league is going to put up about 20 a week minimum. So that's a big loss. But if you can replace him with 15 points every week for minimal cost, I do think that's something that can be done not too difficult.
Yeah.
Someone I was thinking was Hollywood.
Trading down from?
The problem with Hollywood is that he is a young receiver tied to Kyler Murray that people aren't going to just give up quickly. So that would, I think, have to be the right situation where the owner that has Hollywood is not winning right now, or you're just willing to, pay that first plus price, depending on where your first is, for Hollywood, just because he is a guy that people are going to value a little more highly than the aging veterans and stuff like that.
Someone that could be low-key decent for the playoffs is Courtland Sutton, because you saw last week, yes, he's not been efficient, and that offense is abysmal to watch. But the fact of the matter is, with no Jerry Jeudy, this dude is probably going to be seeing at least 8 targets a game, if not more. We saw him just get 11 targets?
The thing is, though, with we're going to get into this later, so I don't want to hit on it too much with the Jeudy injury, but that injury reportedly is not as bad as it looked. It looked like it was an Achilles or something like that because he grabbed the back of his leg down.
Well, let's just get into it now then.
The one last thing I do want to say in terms of if you're going to look to buy someone to help with the Cooper Kupp injury, the name that I liked a lot, or at least 2 that come to mind, Amari Cooper was the first one. Deshaun Watson's about to come back week 11, and I think Cooper is going to be one of those guys that towards the later stretch of the season is going to be putting up really good numbers. And right now he's still at where's Amari Cooper? He's still at wide receiver 32. Which isn't cheap by any means. He's right next to pretty much Jerry Jeudy in value.
The problem with Amari Cooper is that the time to buy Amari Cooper was about 5 weeks ago before Deshaun came back. Now Deshaun's practicing and he's going to play. I think the Browns are on bye next week, but the week after. So the time to buy Amari Cooper was 4 or 5 weeks ago when people were like, oh, this Browns offense is doing nothing with, Brissett.
What about Mike Williams? Mike Williams is wide receiver 38, and he just came back. He did still sign that extension. He's going to be with Herbert.
I don't hate buying Mike Williams. I think the problem I have with Cooper is he really going to be more productive than he's been? I mean, the guy is on the season, including bye week, wide receiver 14 on the year. There's plenty of weeks where he's gone over 20.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's slightly more consistent, but I'm not really sure I see Amari Cooper all of a sudden massively increasing his production with Deshaun Watson. I think what Deshaun Watson helps is everyone not named Amari Cooper, and that you just get a little bit more sustain out of the offense, right? Where it's not
hopefully
just
Kareem Hunt looks better.
Show.
Yeah, because Kareem Hunt's been
he's horrible. A guy that I think will improve, right? Because to me, Kareem Hunt the previous seasons, he was great kind of in the red zone, especially in the passing game. Flaring out in the flat and things of that nature. I think that's where Deshaun Watson can really help out, is increasing a guy like his production. But I think in terms of Nick Chubb and Amari Cooper, I really don't expect a massive difference for an upgrade at quarterback. I feel like we've kind of seen what they've got already. And I just don't want to pay that Amari Cooper price and keep trade cut is essentially a first round pick. It's a smidge under.
Yeah.
But if you're a contender, you're going to have to probably give that little bit of juice, which is that first round pick valuation. I don't want to do that for a guy that's 29 years old.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Buying Amari Cooper, very dangerous, risky play. Even with Deshaun coming back, not a move I'm really looking to go for.
All right, well, let's get into Jerry Jeudy now. So you were saying that the Jerry Jeudy injury is not as bad as
the reports came.
It looked it was going to be.
So the MRI came back and no Achilles damage, no ligament damage, just kind of like day-to-day ankle sprain, typical ankle sprain injury. I would wager he misses this week, and maybe that's it. It looked a lot worse in game. I really thought that was a season ender because he grabbed the back of his ankle, which is typically the sign of an Achilles injury, which going to end a season. But if Judy's only out a week or two, that I know you were talking about buying Courtland Sutton, that would really turn me off from even looking at Sutton, just because if you're looking for a piece to make that playoff push, to make that championship push, and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go get Courtland Sutton for pretty cheap, I just don't think his stats are going to improve significantly for a long enough span. They might increase for the next 2 weeks with Sutton, with Jeudy out, but after that and he's back, I just don't see the numbers there.
I guess that also makes the waiver wire this year has been pretty dog shit, even compared to previous years where I always feel like the waiver wire is a little bit overrated, but this year it's been horrible. There's been
nothing.
Basically zero guys where it's like, yeah, I picked that guy up off the waiver wire and he James Robinsoned his way into being a starting level player. So I guess the Kendall Hinton is not going to be that guy for the playoff.
The only person I can think of is Deontay Foreman. I think that was there on waivers.
But even him, he was on a lot of teams already.
Yeah, because he was good for the playoff stretch last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's the closest one I can think of.
Dallas Goedert hurt. I think this is kind of the only injury that it didn't look really that bad. I even think he came back in, but it looks like he's going to be out for a couple weeks now, which surprised me a little bit.
They put him on IR, so it's 4 weeks.
So that's the actual popular waiver claim, I think, now is there's that backup tight end in Philly. I forget his name, but he's basically rostered in 0 leagues. That should be a claim that's on your radar with just how good everyone's been for the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it is going to be tricky where I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple different guys. Like they have 2 or 3 of these backup tight ends and one on their practice squad, Tyree Jackson, who I think they're going to elevate. It could
be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Former quarterback.
Yeah. So I stay kind of wary where it's I don't know if there's going to be one to definitely cement himself as the main tight end backup. I think the main thing that immediately sticks out is I think it helps Devontae Smith. I know Devontae Smith had a good game last game, but he's kind of had a little bit of an inconsistent season with AJ Brown is consistently getting wide receiver 1 numbers week to week. Devontae on the season as a whole has had a solid year, but it's some weeks he has 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, and some weeks he has 2 catches for 30 yards. I think now while Goddard's out, you're going to see both him and Brown producing pretty consistently.
So the backup tight ends for the Eagles that I'm reading, the popular waiver claim is Jack Stoll on Sleeper.
He's been the main second guy, yeah.
There's, and I think he's actually been playing a little bit kind of just as a blocking tight end in that offense. So if you're looking at who's just gotten the most snaps, it's him. But you also have Grant Calcaterra that is a backup tight end for the Eagles. And like you were saying, Tyree Jackson on the practice squad, that in terms of all guys that have had at least some showing in the receiving game, it would be Tyree Jackson.
Yeah.
That probably has the most upside for the short term. So that is a good shout. Maybe he's on your waiver wire because, he was a popular claim, in the beginning of this season or last season?
It was the beginning of last season.
It was when they traded away Ertz, right?
Yeah, he was having an insanely good training camp in the summer of 21. And then he tore his Achilles. and they just kind of kept him on their practice squad. And now he's fully healthy. He's been fully healthy this season, and they're elevating him after the injury. So I do think he has more receiving upside than the main second guy. But if his block, we'll see how many snaps he gets. But
I think he's the claim, though. I think he's the claim over Jack Stoll.
He has more upside than Stoll. I'll say that. I think Stoll's the safer one, but I think Tyree Jackson's the more upside one.
To be completely honest, I don't think any of these tight ends we're talking about are really gonna make a difference on any roster. To be fair, you're just gonna swap them out for whoever you have on the end of your bench, and then come the offseason, you're gonna drop them for whatever rookie picks you got. So honestly, I'm not spending a lot of fab on these guys. I'm not even concerned if I don't get one. I just think this is a offense that's going to be led by running backs in Miles Sanders, and I think we'll even see Kenneth Gainwell in the slot more, as well as Devontae Smith putting up more consistent numbers to go along with the AJ Brown just dominance that we've seen this season.
What about Quez Watkins? Is there any chance that Quez Watkins you can pick up for basically nothing, probably less than a third, like a fourth might get it done in a potential flex play?
You could get him for less than a fourth. He's going to be, like, he's so boomer bust. Like, we saw, he's like, I don't know, the deep pass kind of guy. I wouldn't feel great about starting Quez Watkins any week. I think it's more so I just feel way better about Devontae Smith and some of the other guys. I'm sure Quez Watkins will have those random weeks where he gives you a good performance, but he's going to have a couple weeks where he has like 1.2 points.
All right, so Matt Ryan is starting again for
what happened? What happened here? I honestly was at the Knick game on Sunday, so like I didn't get to see the start of the 1:00 games. And
you want to know what happened? Dude, Jeff Saturday came in and put his nuts on the fucking table and got a dub. I'm actually really happy for Jeff Saturday because he got dragged through the mud for a couple days there. Everyone hated him, said he was unqualified, and he goes out. Now it's against the Raiders, right? Who's another struggling team, but the Colts looked good on offense. I mean, they put up 25 points. You got some decent production out of Parris Campbell. Jonathan Taylor came back and looked like the Jonathan Taylor from last season.
Year. Yeah.
Matt Ryan was out there running, right? The dude had like a 50-yard run.
Yeah, 44-yard run, yeah.
So I guess the question is, Matt Ryan, dirt cheap right now. Anyone that has Matt Ryan, even contenders, I imagine, would be looking to sell. So if you wanted to and you needed a quarterback for a third-round pick, you could pick him up. Is that a complete bait, though? I'm probably not going to be picking up Matt Ryan. But if you desperately needed a quarterback, right, and you're looking at the likes of a Taylor Heineke for a third or like a Matt Ryan, like he could be the kind of guy as if you're looking for a QB3 for the playoff run potentially, and maybe you just have a third to blow.
Maybe. I wouldn't hate it if someone did it. And I think if you're in a position where like you need a QB3, I think that's fair. I don't know. I think
who's
this is
he
last
compete
year.
with, right? Mariota, probably Wentz. Like who are the other guys I imagine to be around the range? I said Heineke,
Goff.
Goff, I think is
Goff
still a little bit
more than a third.
Yeah, I think Goff you still might have to give it the late second. I think it's those guys generally. I don't know. I feel like Jeff Saturday's offensive identity is just going to be like just running the ball like crazy with Jonathan Taylor. And he said he would, and he did, and it looked great. Where I think there's going to be like a decent amount of Matt Ryan games where he just ends up with like 8 points or something. Like I don't know how many he finished with from last Sunday. If someone knows generally off the top of their head. But I mean, like 4 of those were from a 40-yard rush, which for Matt Ryan, I mean, if you want to count on that, go ahead. I probably won't. I wouldn't hate it though. I think for a third
25 points last game.
25, but yeah, I know. He had a decent performance. I wouldn't hate it if someone did it. He
did have a rushing touchdown in 40 yards, which helps.
Yeah,
you're not going to see that.
So no, I don't hate it.
All right, Eno Benjamin claimed by the Texans. He was released and now claimed. Is this any news? Is there any potential here? Any panic on Dameon Pierce? Oh, well, he's not going to get a bajillion carries. Or Is this just who fucking cares?
I don't think it really affects Pierce. I thought it was a weird release by the Cardinals. I think the most notable thing for me was like, we know James Conner gets injured pretty frequently. Now there's going to be a new main backup in Arizona for when James Conner is here. So I think that's the more notable thing. I don't know who's going to be the top guy, whether it's Keontae Ingram or someone else after James Conner, but I think that's the most like notable thing from this.
I think the most notable thing from this is actually that James Conner, if you are a contender that wants a running back that will probably be an RB1 for the rest of the way, it is James Conner. The dude had 96% of snaps last game. 96%.
Oh, yeah, he's going to play all of it, yeah.
Eno Benjamin being released is definitely a testament of we don't like Eno Benjamin, not like, oh, we didn't have space. Like, this team has been looking for a running back. He looked all right at first, but I guess recently he's been shit. I think, James Conner you can get for definitely less than a first, and you'll probably see similar numbers that we saw in that stretch he had last season because the guy's just going to be playing every fucking snap, it seems like. I think that's my takeaway.
I just don't trust James Conner. This Cardinals team is very, very hit and miss, especially with Kyler being a little hurt now. I know that he got 96% of the snaps, as you said, but like he's a guy with a very large injury history. If you just keep feeding him and feeding him and feeding him, eventually he's just going to go down. It's just who he is, and at this point in his career, I just don't see him staying healthy for a 96%, snap share. It's just not going to happen. I do think that we might see a Keontae Ingram. They might say, we don't like Eno Benjamin. We, might as well see what we got in this rookie. I don't think it's really fantasy relevant at this point, but I wouldn't be going out personally and buying James Conner. I've been burnt by him one time and don't want to do it again. So
I think when he's healthy, he'll have decent number. The health thing is what's like scares me with him, especially if he's gonna get that big a workload. So that's why the handcuff was the first thing that like I thought of, whoever's new handcuff will be. But I mean, I'm with you. Like when he's healthy, he'll put up numbers for you and help you win games.
I just think that you're getting Aaron Jones level production for like half the price. Maybe not half the price, but definitely cheaper because you kind of have to give up a first to get the Aaron Jones owner to move. Yeah. You don't have to do that for James Conner, especially if you trade down into him or you start packaging other things around him. Like you can get James Conner for an extremely fair price if you're trying to win a championship. And speaking of another news thing that happened that will probably impact this playoff run, Khalil Herbert placed on IR. That Bears backfield was like a complete 50-50 split between David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. Now it's kind of wheels up for David Montgomery, it seems like. Yeah. I had seen people on both the Dynasty subreddit and on Twitter saying this is the opportunity to sell David Montgomery, which I don't disagree with. I just think the problem is that the price is still the same as it was a couple weeks ago, even with Herbert there. But now you're potentially selling a guy that could easily be an RB1. The production he had when he finished RB4 2 years ago in half PPR leagues. So curious as to what your guys' thoughts are. Are you using this opportunity, even if you're a contender, to sell David Montgomery? Or are you saying, dude, you have to keep him because he's an RB1 for a playoff run?
I was going to say, I think it depends the position your team's in. And I'll just make this. If I'm a contender legitimately going for the championship and I feel like I have a decent shot, it's hard to sell him because you're going to get like top 10, top 12 running back production for the rest of the season, especially with now the Bears offense is high scoring. They've scored at least 29 each of the past 3 weeks against Dallas, Miami, and then Detroit. It's become like an explosive offense with more scoring opportunities. So it'd be hard to sell. If I was in any position, though, other than like I legitimately think I have a shot at winning the chip, I'd chop him if I'm not in that position. Like if I was like a meddling playoff team or obviously if I'm rebuilding.
The problem I have with even, contenders holding them is that Dynasty's all about value, right? So you always want to just get the most out of every single player on your roster, get the most value, even if that means selling them. And I think this is the highest David Montgomery will be. I know his value hasn't changed significantly on keep trade cut, but I think if you go to even another contender, and this might suck, is a guy that you're trying to win or you're semi trying to win, giving them to that best team in the league or that second best team in the league for a playoff run, you are going to get the best price possible because they know that there's no one else in this backfield. Who are they giving the ball to in this backfield other than David Montgomery? Obviously, Justin Fields is running a whole lot more nowadays, and that's great for the Bears, not so much great for the running backs, but at the same time, this is still the highest you're going to get the value out of David Montgomery. I've fallen victim to the, I'm a contender, I'm going to hold on to Julio Jones, thing before. And I've done it with Adam Thielen. I've done it with a bunch of other guys. I've learned from my mistakes. Just get out when you can. Not cheap, not saying just sell them to sell them, but if you get that price that you want and you think is a more than fair value, even slightly overpay, because you don't think he's actually as good as the full bell cow that we're going to see for the remainder of the season. I mean, I just think it's stupid not to. Even if you tear down and you go from David Montgomery and you pick up a guy like Kareem Hunt in a first-round pick, that because Kareem Hunt's been so bad the past couple of weeks and people are souring on, a 27-year-old, 28-year-old running back that hasn't done anything in Cleveland. Like, if you get him in a first-round pick, I think that's more than fair, and I think you really won't lose that much, as like with Watson coming back and all that, and you get a pick this year. It really keeps your team moving along.
I just struggle to see you getting that price. The deal that I was honestly thinking about as someone who has David Montgomery is like David Montgomery in a second for a first. I felt like that was the price that I'd be forced to sell at most of the time, which I'm not really sure that's worth. I think you're right. Long term, it probably is, but I might just be willing to roll the dice on whatever the fuck is going to happen in the offseason and say, like, dude, Dave Montgomery's at least a decent running back. Like, why can't he be a Kareem Hunt where he goes into a similar situation where he is now? It's like a 50-50 timeshare, and yeah, he's not the sexiest running back, but he's still startable next year. I guess lastly, Tristan Ebner is probably someone that's owned in leagues. Is there any potential for a guy like Tristan Ebner, or is this just going to be a David Montgomery backfield?
David Montgomery backfield. I mean, if you had Montgomery and want to pick up Ebner as a handcuff, sure, but like otherwise, I'm not going for him in really any league.
Because that's the other concern, is that maybe David Montgomery's
role stays the
workload
same.
Only not necessarily stays the same, because he'll definitely be the first option and the primary option. But what if it's just not, he's going to own the backfield as it's kind of being expected that he's going to, right? And Tristan Ebner comes in, and he's just a little bit more annoying than you'd think, right? He's at there 25% of the snaps, and you're just like, we expected at least 90% of the snaps for Dave Montgomery, and now he's only getting 70% of the snaps. And we expected 20 plus carries, but he's only getting 15. I don't think that'll happen, but I was just posing the question because that would further Jake's argument that you should use this opportunity to sell him now because that's a potential thorn that's not being priced in.
It's not. I do think that's a realistic scenario where he ends up at 75%. I do want to say, first off, I'm not looking to pick up Ebner in leagues. I don't think himself is going to be fantasy relevant, but I can see what you mean with him just kind of being a pain in the ass to David Montgomery owners. It's tough. Go ahead, Jake.
The bigger thing that I think is going to bother Montgomery owners is the use of Justin Fields on the ground. We've seen it in the past 3-4 weeks go over like 150 yards every week. Like, if you're going to tell me that he's going to have 150 yards on the ground and David Montgomery is going to have 150 yards on the ground, like, I just have a hard time
I just think, dude, I feel like we have to see a switch in the defensive philosophy for some of these teams because it felt like the Lions
they've done it. He's done it like 4 weeks in a row. I don't think people have figured out the offense.
I just have a fundamental disagreement with how the Lions and the Dolphins tried to stop Fields. I don't agree with, let's only rush 5 and have guys not completely rush, waiting for Justin Fields to run. Like, dude, just fucking pass rush him. Just blitz the shit out of him and pass rush him. He's gonna because the spies don't fucking work. The spies don't work on him.
Whoever the spy is, Justin Fields is gonna beat them in open space anyway. We've seen it on each of his large touchdowns. Like it wasn't like it was a straight run. He's always making someone miss in that first 10 yards pretty easily and then just goes off.
Yeah, unless your spy is Fred Warner or TJ Watt or maybe Myles Garrett, which TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, I'd just still rather have you rush Justin Fields.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the person you'd want as a QB spot would be like Micah Parsons or something, but you want Micah Parsons to fucking just rush the passer. So I think I don't think that Justin Fields running is a complete detriment to David Montgomery because I do get it's a bitch with the rushing yards and him maybe stealing goal line rushing opportunities here and there. But I just think the offense is in scoring position so much more often now with him using his legs.
I'm curious to see because if I'm a defensive coordinator, I want to be blitzing Justin Fields at a way above average rate compared to other teams. Because his tendency has been to hold on to the ball. So I think that if you're able to get that pass rush and you're able to tackle, he's not able to break contain, then you can get them behind the sticks, which is exactly what you want. And to me, if we're we're the offensive coordinator of the Bears, that means I want to run some fucking screens. So, or just little short passes and things just so Justin Fields gets the ball out of his hands. And that could mean a potential uptick in passing workload for one of these Bears players in the short game, whether it's we want to run a little tunnel screen with Mooney or we want to run a running back screen with Montgomery or something. So to me, that's the little game that I'm playing in my head. But that's complete speculation. Let's go on here. Zach Ertz hurt. This is another injury. It looked horrible. It looked like the season, it looked like Zach Ertz's career was going to be over.
Is he not out for the season?
I don't believe so. From the reports I've seen, he didn't have the big bad injury that people expected. And yeah, he might be out for a couple of weeks, but it's not one of these season-ending, career-ending, because Ertz is later into his career sort of ordeals. So
I think he does. Possibly though, if he's gonna be out for what do they say? Is it one of those where it's a month? No. It is a season-ending injury.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, well it's season-ending.
No, that's what I thought. I was bugging. Okay.
12 teams, Dynasty Superflex. Would you trade a mid to late 23 first for DeAndre Swift?
A mid to late 23 first for DeAndre Swift? Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't like what I've seen from Swift,
especially if it's I don't know. Swift is still talented. Think how good he's gonna look with Bryce Young. Kidding. But no, I think I probably would. I might be if it's when you're saying mid, if it's 105, that might be tough. But if we're talking like 108, I think I pull the trigger on that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the only real crux is is there a decent chance that that's a top 6 pick, or is
if that's 5 or 6, I'm probably not.
Yeah, 108. If it's a playoff first, I'd just rather have DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, if it's
this is someone that's not a really huge DeAndre Swift person. To me, I would much rather have what I believe is a surefire running back, which if you look at the running back landscape right now, it's pretty dreadful to own most of these dudes. DeAndre Swift, I don't think is one of those players. And you're able to just cash in on that late first, which is going to be a good pick, but you assume basically no risk. So I would do that.
Wait, are you saying buying for the late first or selling for the late first?
I buy DeAndre Swift
for the late first.
Yeah, that's a playoff team's first.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, but I wouldn't sell 105 or 106 for Swift.
Because the only reason I would not want to do that is if it's a top sixer and all of a sudden I have an opportunity at one of the quarterbacks or like a Bijan. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's or maybe like the wide receiver 1 or 2 in the class if they end up going really early in the draft. All right, back to Zach Ertz. So it is a season-ending injury. I guess the report I read was wrong. I need to mute more Twitter doctors. What's the dude's name? The tight end?
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride. Yeah. Trey McBride. What do we think is going to happen with Trey McBride? Because I don't think he will assume the production that Ertz had, which was a lot better than people seem to give him credit for.
He was like top 5 numbers.
He was a top 5 tight end. Yeah. You plug and play starter. I don't think Trey McBride will be there.
No.
He's not. He's just not ready yet. He was a raw prospect, and he's still raw. He needs more time to develop. I do think he'll get more run now, which will be good for his development and long-term value, I think. But right now, I just would rather have DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, Rondale Moore in this offense than any tight end.
Those are going to be the 3 guys.
But are you buying now? Or is this like you have to buy now because you can have a couple good weeks? The tight end position's pretty dreadful in terms of the good young players. Like you might be able to get in now, and then all of a sudden, a couple weeks from now, he has a couple decent weeks, and you're starting to approach that what Dallas Goedert was a couple years ago.
So here's my only thing with that. I actually think it could be beneficial to wait because I think this injury, the number one person who's going to help the most, in my opinion, is Rondale Moore. I think we're going to see start. I obviously expect DeAndre Hopkins to continue to put up wide receiver 1 numbers, but I think you might see Rondale Moore be even better with Hollywood. Because here's the thing I'll say about Trey McBride. I still like Trey McBride long-term a lot, and I believe in his talent. Rookie tight ends, it's tough for them to be productive right away. And I think if anything, like, there might be like the slightest like disappointment discount if like when this injury happens, Trey McBride comes in and he's not like producing right away, which I think is very realistic for a rookie tight end. To where like, oh, he's not producing with Zach Ertz out. Like I think now he has a little bit of hype towards him where I think if you wait a week or 2, it might be cheaper unless he goes up. Obviously if he has a good game, it sucks and it's gonna be more, but I think there's a chance it lowers a little bit.
I don't know. If I have McBride, I am holding. I think he's definitely more of a buy than a sell. I'm
not selling him. No, yeah.
I think that now might be just the time where you can get in for a second, and this might be the last time that you can get in for a second before he reaches that Mixon paradox where he's not flashy and sexy enough to go for a first, but you also, if you have him on your team, especially with the tight end landscape every year, you don't want to sell for that second. You know, it's just not worth it for having a potential like low end tight end 1 with upside on a good offense. So I might be looking to buy Trey McBride in some leagues right now.
That's fair.
And even though, like you're right, there is some hype. I'm gonna have to pay more than he was a couple weeks ago. I'm liking this opportunity he has.
I like the opportunity.
I'm taking the bait, dude.
I like the opportunity.
I'm seeing the hook. I'm seeing the little piece of meat. And I'm going for a chomp. I'm going for a chomp. Yeah, I'm going for a chomp.
Okay. We'll see. I'm rooting for him to do well.
I have Trey McBride on my original Dynasty team as my 4th tight end behind Andrews, Conklin, and Moreau.
Looks like you're in a great spot.
Yeah, but I think like to me that's a firm hold. Like I feel like I've been in that position before where I have a bunch of tight ends and I'm like, I'll just sell one off for value. And I've basically regretted it every single time. Just hold those fucking tight ends.
Would you sell Moreau?
Well, yeah, but who the hell's buying Moreau?
The Waller owner.
The Waller, yeah, because he hasn't been bad. I've started Moreau 2 straight weeks.
Okay, let me rephrase my statement. I will sell the shitty tight ends, but the good prospect tight ends.
Okay,
you're what?
I wouldn't sell McBride either.
Like, how about this hypothetical scenario? McBride starts doing pretty well, not kind of like what the expectation is right now from the average Dynasty player, right?
Yeah.
He comes in, he starts doing low tight end 1 numbers, which isn't really great for
But it's good for a rookie.
It's decent.
It's good for a rookie.
And all of a sudden, you have an offer on the table for 2 late seconds, and you're like, dude, sweet, I can turn a second-round pick into 2 late seconds. I did the same thing with Goedert's. I drafted a ton of Goedert's, and I was like, fuck yeah, 2 seconds, I will take that. And now you look years down the line, and it's like these same teams, it's like, well, shit, now I need to buy a tight end. And now I have one of the, like, wait, he's a top 5 tight end? I think he was like tight end 3 or 4 heading into this week before the injury. Yeah, Goedert.
Yeah.
And you just look back and you're like, fuck, I had such a good situation at my tight end spot that I just squandered because I wanted to get 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Yeah, and especially he's going to be paired with Kyler. D-Hop is getting older. In the future, it could clear up for him more. I don't hate that. I didn't say to sell. I definitely wouldn't sell. But my only thing was if you could wait 2 weeks to hold. But I might be wrong.
Cardinals are like the anti-Ravens for Jake. I want all the pieces. Buy all Cardinals. We got new one.
I think now it's a good time to buy low on the Cardinals. They're having a really disappointing year, and they still have I don't know how much.
I'm buying low on fucking Kyler.
I was going to say, because Kyler, I think his stock is way too low right now.
If people are panicking on Kyler...
Justin Fields is ahead of Kyler in all these dynasty rankings now.
I still think Kyler is a top 5 dynasty quarterback.
Yeah,
I have him top 5 or top 6. Yeah,
but that's just my opinion. All right, Elijah Mitchell, his first game back, out-touched Christian McCaffrey. Now that's the clickbait headline. Obviously, that's not going to be the thing, and Christian McCaffrey gets a lot more of those higher value touches, but. This is something that I had brought up a couple weeks ago that was like, yo, guys, we might want to chill out because we saw with Shanahan when he had Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman that they both were used. This is more so like going forward. Is Elijah Mitchell a flex-worthy play, or is this a bait week and you're like, yo, take this opportunity to sell for your second-round pick while you can?
There are going to be a lot of weeks where you get spurned, and if you can get a decent second, I think I like it. I think it has to be a little bit encouraging from where you felt before this weekend, where I think the 49ers are using McCaffrey the right way. If you're going to give up all that investment to get him, you don't want to like run him to the ground in like a year and a half. Like you want him to be able to like be there on those receiving downs. Like McCaffrey's the one getting most of the catches, and it's mostly Elijah Mitchell with just straight up carries. So I was a little bit more encouraged after Elijah Mitchell's uses. But again, like kind of what I said before, and I guess I was a little bit too low on him before, but I kind of stick with the same sentiment I said. There are going to be a lot of weeks where he's giving you like no catches, 52 yards, which will be like a solid game for him, like in real life. Like if he gets 13 carries for like 56 yards, that's very useful for the 49ers. But in fantasy, like if he's not going to be in on those passing downs, it's kind of tricky. I guess it depends on how high scoring the offense ends up being with them too. I'm higher on him than I was a week ago being in the situation. But in terms of a week-to-week flex play, if like you're a top contender, there will be some weeks where you get spurned by him, I think.
I mean, for anyone that's not a super contender, like not a top 2 or 3 team in your league, I have a feeling gonna need to start Elijah Mitchell, just because heading into the season you thought he was the back, Jeff Wilson's the backup, that's about it. No one else was really there. So like you probably don't have that much running back depth, and you might need to play Elijah Mitchell. I don't think he'll be a horrible play, but I just think he'll be more touchdown dependent than he was in the past due to those receiving numbers going down from obviously McCaffrey being the better receiver there. So I kind of agree with Lounis. It won't be a great flex play, but it is still a play you could do if you needed to.
I just bought Elijah Mitchell. What did you buy him for? I'm curious.
I'm interested what his price would be. But I just still like him because he just still have value, and especially like we know McCaffrey's injury history. He's only getting older by the year. If McCaffrey's out for a week, Elijah Mitchell becomes like a top 10.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, is that it seems like Elijah Mitchell, the first thing that I found very interesting was that Jeff Wilson was someone that both Shanahan loved and Mike McDaniels loved, which is why he traded for him. You see him basically as the starter now in Miami. To me, Shanahan came out and said, we like Elijah Mitchell more than Jeff Wilson. Now, it might have been because he's on the rookie deal a little bit, but regardless, they chose Elijah Mitchell over Jeff Wilson.
Well, I think they chose a draft pick that they could get from the Dolphins over either of them. And I bet you McDaniel said, I want Jeff Wilson. And he said,
yeah,
sure.
That could be it. But if like Lounis said, if CMC goes down, Elijah Mitchell is
he's a top 10
low-end RB1, high-end RB2 play any given week. So I can kind of see both sides of the coin. Third-round pick and Hines betting against CMC. Yeah, that's a fine price to get
That's
in
a
on.
great. Yeah, I'm thinking with him like it's like a solid second, not even like a late second.
I just I felt like if I were to offer out Elijah Mitchell for a bunch of second-round picks, I'm not sure any of them get accepted. I think that's the problem. I think it's dreaming a little bit to get a second for Mitchell.
How many years does McCaffrey still have on his contract? Isn't it like 3 years?
Yeah, but you don't give up all those picks to not keep him around, though, right?
No, they're planning on keeping him around.
No, that's what I'm saying. He still has 3 years left on his deal, I thought.
Yeah. No, he does.
So obviously he's going to be there. I just, if you're going to have McCaffrey there for the next 3 years, Elijah Mitchell's value is out the window. Get what you can. It's out the window. It doesn't matter.
You might
it doesn't matter.
You might be able to get a contender future second from the McCaffrey owner.
Sure, you might, but that's
maybe
about it.
maybe you can settle for just Mitchell and a third for a second. Is it worth selling that low?
I would look to pick up a guy like Nyheim Hines. Like, I think that's not a bad idea. You get a guy that's going to be, a not a great flex play, but in times of need, you could play him in the flex, and you pick up a third. I don't think that's a horrible price. I would like to get a second for him if I could. And if you have to throw a fourth or a lesser player back, I'm not opposed to it. But overall, like Elijah Mitchell, I'm trying to get out. I thought I was going to be screwed out of all my Jeff Wilsons, but then he got traded too, so it turned out great because he looks like he's the starter now, like you said. But Elijah Mitchell, whoever's the second back to McCaffrey, is just not going to be consistent enough to be worth much. So if you can get a second right now while his value is still high, I just think it's a no-brainer. There's no way a 6th round pick is going to outtouch McCaffrey every week. It's just not happening. And yes, he looked good, and they look like they could split the backfield pretty evenly. I just think as this season winds down, and this Niners team is really making a playoff push, they're just going to say, you know what? The best guy we have on our team is Christian McCaffrey. We're going to give him the ball, and we're going to give him it again. We're going to give it again.
What I will say with Elijah Mitchell, even I understand every point Jake made for trading, and I think that all makes sense if you're getting a second. I think if I can't get a second, I'm holding. I'm not selling for the Hines and a third. I think I'm holding unless I can get a second round pick.
I don't know. I think Jake has actually convinced me. Because the other factor that I just thought of is that when you think of the game script in that primetime game of the Chargers versus Niners game, Chargers had no defensive tackles. And the Niners just kind of came out there and ran the ball 40 times they probably had total carries?
Yeah.
That can't happen every game, right? They can't run the ball 40 fucking... I know that they love running the football, and they will spam runs.
There'll be a run first team, but yeah, no, it won't be that often.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to be able to have the ability to just dominate up front. As well as if you look at... I don't want to get too scheme Frank over here, but
go for it.
The Chargers scheme that they were running was very similar to what you saw the Dolphins doing a couple years ago under Flores, where they're lining up 6-7 guys up across the line. They have everyone initially rush, and then
some guys back out.
Yeah, if they see that they're picking up a block, they'll back out. It's just fucking annoying to have pass blocking against that, and you keep pass blocking, right? How do you counter that? Well, you just say, all right, you want to line up one-on-one across the front? Well, fucking run the ball, right? You want to do this bullshit, we will just pound the ball down your throat, and you have no D tackles. So... it just, like now the more I'm thinking about it, the more that game script said, yeah, let's run the ball 40 times and win the game that way. All right, last one, going to my Steelers. Jaylen Warren, this was very surprising because we all knew that Jaylen Warren was going to get more touches, right? After a bye week, which is notorious for where those rookie running backs see an increase in workload, Najee Harris struggling. We all saw that coming. But the way that it went is not how I expected at all, because it was Jaylen Warren mainly on the passing downs and Najee Harris in the early downs, where I thought it was going to kind of be the other way around, where you're like, okay, we'll use Najee Harris's passing ability and pass blocking and have Jaylen Warren just rotate in as that power back. But it was the complete opposite.
He looked good.
Warren, what do we think? A flex viable level player? If he's on your taxi, are you promoting him, or is this sell while you can?
I'm still holding, but I get more concerns about Najee Harris, because if he's going to come in for some of those passing downs, part of the entire appeal to Najee Harris was all the receptions that he's going to get, how he was this ultimate receiving back. If that's not going to happen, like even if it's some but not all of them, that takes a hit on his value.
So, yes, I do think that Najee's lack of the passing game takes a major hit to his value, but he's already way down. I think that passing value was partially due to noodle arm Roethlisberger.
So something it off, yeah.
Just being like, here, I can't throw that far. Take it. Like, whatever. But overall, I'm not going out and buying Jaylen Warren. I just think he's what they have, and he's the best that they have behind Najee right now. So he will be getting those third downs for the remainder of the season, and I think that's fine. If I have him in my taxi, I'll probably leave him there unless I'm super desperate for a running back. I'm not going out and buying him because I truly just think that this is going to be the Steelers in the offseason saying, okay, we'll sign Melvin Gordon to a 1-year deal. I don't care. Like, just bring in another veteran back. Bring in a pass catching back, bring in somebody else that's going to help take the load off of Najee here a little bit and let Najee get his 10 to 15 carries a game and a couple receptions, but not, run him into the ground. So I just think overall Warren's going to look nice for the remainder of the year, maybe, but I don't think he's the Steelers' long-term plan here.
This sucks for Najee because I felt like that was his big strength, was that you get him in the passing game, right? Get him one-on-one in the open field. I think the reason why he hasn't been using the passing game is simply because he's been shit when he's in the open field.
I was going to say,
he can't make any of the defensive backs miss. Good.
And Jake, to your point about bringing another back in to kind of help not run Najee into the ground, but that's what we were talking about with me and Frank. We're like, you'd want it to be the back that's in on those first and second down rushes to take some of those away from Najee. You don't want it to be a guy coming in on those third down. I don't think we have
the fucking capital to bring, like,
you could sign like a cheap back at like
maybe like a really cheap guy, but
even if you bring in like a guy like Gus Edwards or
Latavius Murray,
maybe Gus Edwards might work if we can pay him dirt cheap. But this team has so many holes that need to be filled outside of the running back spot that I just foresee this being like, okay, we've got two guys that are at least all right, that we're willing to roll with. And like, yeah, maybe we bring in a random ass third guy, or maybe we bring in a couple UDFAs to fight in camp. I really don't see any investment at the running back position. So like,
they shouldn't.
Even though the panic on Najee's gotten crazy, it's not like you can't play him. You can play Najee, and he's going to get some work.
I have a legitimate question. After next season going forward, so forget the rest of this season. So say someone's coming to you with this trade offer like this upcoming August. Let's just assume the roster construction is generally the same. The running back room's the same. How much more J.K. Dobbins would you need to get Najee Harris?
Not a lot.
Maybe nothing.
More?
Maybe nothing.
I was going to say maybe. No, I asked that question to set the precedent. It's like J.K. Dobbins at equal or if not more value than Najee at this point.
He's probably worth around the same.
At least the thing with J.K. Dobbins is there's an excuse.
The injury.
Like,
yeah.
There's a plausible reason why he hasn't been producing. Najee Harris is just, okay, he's been shit. Like, He's been bad. That's the reason.
So right now, Najee's at 4,200, and Dobbins is at 30, a little close to 37, a little under.
Okay,
so like the difference is right now the difference is equivalent to a 23 late third, 24 mid third, or Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson, MVS. Not a whole lot.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, I think once people see Dobbins on the field and just healthy for more than a game or two, whatever he played before, he's going to pass him just because Najee's done absolutely nothing. He's been a mediocre to sub-mediocre back this year.
It's weird to see.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if he can be a Jacobs type player where he had his struggles, he's had his up and downs, but we see him bounce back because when it's all said and done, I do think that Najee Harris is just better than Trent Richardson.
I think he is. I think he's still a talented running back. I don't think Richardson's the comp.
And last week, Najee was good. He wasn't amazing, but that was easily the best we've seen him. So maybe we see the fire lit under him. Like, I don't want to completely give up on Najee Harris, but at the same time, I'm not spending a first-round pick on him right now. I'm not doing it.
No.
I think Harris
it's hard to sell him.
Yeah,
you kind of have to hold him.
Tough.
You kind of have to hold him.
But this is just going to be the blemish on his resume that's going to keep him from ever being a highly top 10 type of running back unless he has crazy production. So
yeah,
all right. Bait or great?
Bait or great? I love this segment.
So this is a Lounis segment right here.
Yeah, it is.
Kadarius Toney. Goes out there, I mean, played phenomenally. Juju Smith-Schuster gets hurt, and Kadarius Toney stepped up, and he stepped up big time. The dude had 20 fantasy points last week. Juju's going to be out at least a week, if not more. That was a really tough concussion.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised, especially after the whole
I was going to say, how long was Tua out? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think that you got to hold him out.
He missed. So
2 weeks
he missed
a bye, right?
No, just 2 weeks.
Just 2 weeks. Okay, so let's say 2 weeks for Juju.
So I'll throw it to you, Lounis. Bait or great?
I think he's pretty fucking good. I've been saying it.
Okay, now
2 years.
Pretty good. Or would you throw a random first at him? You're a contender.
Not a random one. Are we talking? Okay, so I'm a contender. I know this is going to be a late first.
Listen, you think you have a good team. You don't want to give up your 23 or 24 because those are hype draft classes right now.
Yeah.
But you've got your 25 available. Are you willing to just say, yes, I love Kadarius Toney. I think he's going to be a help. I will throw that 25, which it's 2 years down the line. It's going to be random no matter what.
I know it's tough because I was going to say I'd give up 110 through 112 in the 23 class.
Oh, really? Okay, so if you're a contender, you would do it for a 23er.
110, I kind of feel it about, but 111, 112 for sure.
Dude.
We're a pro dog podcast.
Sparky or whatever the fuck its name is pissed off that take.
He's not a Tony, but no, I mean, I think this is the perfect landing spot for him. He's literally the one you could only dream of. He's only been there for a little bit.
I love your dog. Your dog's about the draft picks. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to hear.
Throw the picks. But no, and I think this receiving core is wide open. And if there's any coach I trust in the league to take advantage of this talent, it's Andy Reid. I think they're going to put him in positions to. Because the thing with Tony, which has always been, it's he just wasn't ever on the field. When he's been on the field, he's looked good on the NFL level. So if he can stay healthy, and health is my only concern with Tony. If he can stay healthy, I think he can be pretty good, and he's still super young. It's only his second season. The thing I wanted to get your guys' take on was, and by the way, I've sent out offers in a couple leagues. I know I said I'd give up 111, 112. I don't know if his value has reflected that around the whole marketplace. I know I'm one of the people higher on him. I've tried sending out seconds and thirds for him in a few of my leagues to try to get him before it gets too much. I'm waiting before he gets an 8-catch game or a 7-catch game. The first thing I thought of, though, because they're kind of similar style players, and I want both of your takes on this, Toney came in like a week and he's already kind of being utilized in the offense different ways. Sky Moore is supposed to kind of be like a shifty receiver too, good route runner. And we're still waiting. Like I'm not calling Sky Moore a bust or anything or telling him like, oh, get off the boat while you can. But it's like, yeah, I would have liked to see at this point, like seeing how Toney just stepped in and like was being utilized. Like I'm still waiting on Sky Moore.
Sky Moore's a tricky one. I mean, obviously coming from a small school, FCS school, not seeing the field a whole lot, mostly being used on special teams and stuff like that.
Like what you
really
saw with
tough.
Toney is what you wanted to see with Sky Moore in that offense.
It was exactly what you wanted to see, and the fact that the Chiefs were willing to give up a third and a sixth, I think they gave up for Toney, which is pretty significant draft capital.
Teams,
I know the guy. Yeah, it's pretty significant draft capital. I was really expecting like to get it as a Giants fan, just like here's a 6th round pick by itself. We don't want him kind of deal. Yeah. And we got a third and a 6th out of it. I was very happy with that. But at the same time, I'm kind of with Lounis in the terms of I think Toney might be a real player here. I'm not willing to give up a 1st round pick out off one game. I do want to see a little more before I'm saying he's in that 1st round pick territory. But at the same time, you know, MVS and Juju got hurt. I understand that. But those guys, Juju was playing well. MVS isn't that special. He's not that special. Sky Moore has been not used. They went out and paid to get Kadarius Toney, and now they're using him all over the field. Just how we've seen, I hate to say it, just how we saw them use Tyreek Hill. Obviously, he's not. I'm not calling him Tyreek Hill. Don't say that. But he's the same type of smaller, shifty wide receiver that they just want to get the ball on quick routes and just use, you know, take some pressure off Mahomes here. And I do think that he's a guy that, especially if he can build up some chemistry with Mahomes, with Juju and MVS expected to miss some time, he's the number 1 receiver in this offense right now. Obviously, it's Travis Kelce is the number 1, you know, receiving threat, but in terms of wide receivers, he's the number 1 wide receiver right now. And that's just something that you want to see, and I think he's going to get the targets, and I think it will carry over. Juju's a free agent at the end of the year. I think he's played well enough to get a big contract, and the Chiefs can't pay him. So I think he's gone. MVS, as we said, is nothing special. So unless they go out and spend more high capital in the draft, where they've already used a 2nd, 3rd, and a 6th between the two of Toney and Sky Moore, I can't see them investing more into that wide receiver room right now, and they don't have the cap space when they have to pay Mahomes $50 million a year. So I just think Toney is in a really good spot, and they clearly targeted him at the deadline and clearly paid up for him, which again, I don't think any other team was even coming close. So they clearly wanted him. They went out, they got their guy, and now he's starting to play like their guy.
So I've got a couple takes because Lounis brought in Sky Moore. I'm going to start off with Toney, who the segment's about.
Okay.
As of right now, kind of like what Jake is saying, after one game, I'll just take a 1st round pick if I can get him. I only have Toney in like 1 or 2 leagues. I haven't been offered that. I don't think I would get it, but if I was offered any 1st round pick, I would take it. With that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Toney gets to that valuation, because when you look at the Chiefs' offense fully healthy, you have Valdez-Scantling as just, you know, that deep threat, right? Take the top off the defense type of receiver. And a similar kind of a thing with both Toney and Mecole Hardman, right? But so I think Toney more great than bait, but as of right now, it's a bait. I'm not going to buy right now. I think right now is not the time to buy at all. Like, I would like,
or it might be before it's too late.
Yeah, but the thing is, I would rather buy for the 1st when I know that he's going to be fucking really good, right?
That's right.
I would rather like buy at what DJ Moore's price was, right? Shell out a random contender 1st and a 2nd round pick, and I know I get a guy that could be a top 20 receiver, rather than shell out essentially equivalent value to a first, even though I might not be giving up my first for the chance of that happening.
Yeah.
With Sky Moore, really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the plan with Sky Moore is pretty simple. He's Juju replacement.
Tony was the Juju replacement.
No, I think Tony. I don't think is the Juju replacement. Tony is a playmaker. Tony is. We need a fucking playmaker because MVS is unreliable. Juju is not the playmaker he was for the Steelers that second season, even though he's good.
He's all right. Yeah.
If you we can't just have our entire offense run through Travis Kelce and Mahomes just being insane. Like, we need to help him out. That's what the Tony move is to me. Sky Moore, I agree with Jake said. Juju's probably played himself out of staying in Kansas City because he'll get a good contract unless he just wants to take another I get paid nothing contract. And that's where Sky Moore comes in. They do the same things. Maybe Sky is a little bit worse than Juju, but I think that's the plan right now, is that Juju leaves, Sky replaces that role.
And I think that's the ideal scenario for him. We'll see. I'm not saying I'm out on Sky. I just said it was concerning, like a little bit of a red flag. I still like Sky Moore. I drafted him in the first round in one of the 3rd and 20 leagues. I loved him coming out of college. I still believe in him. It was something that was kind of disappointing. Are you selling Sky Moore for a second round pick? If you got offered him, just a random 23 second, probably late. If it's late, probably not.
207, 208. Are you selling for that?
I can't.
That's why you can't buy Sky Moore right now. Is that if you're not selling for 207, then that's not enough of a discount for me to buy in right now.
That's fair. And by the way, I do want to preface with me saying Tony was first round pick. To anyone who hasn't been a long-time viewer, I'm not saying this off of the one game. I've been known on this podcast. I've been high on him since college. And I thought he was going to be a good NFL player for years. So that's part of it. I know it's just one game and he had only a couple catches. I'm just excited for him, what he's going to do in this offense.
So it just seems like Tony's in a little bit of a mixing paradox where if you have, you kind of have to get the first.
That's why I've been sending, and I don't think in our league, just because in our league, I'm so limited on draft picks, but in my Temple Dynasty and another one that I'm in, I've been sending offers for him, trying to see if I could buy him for just below the first. Even though if it came down to it, I would give up 111, 112.
The trades that I was thinking, the ways that I would try to get into Tony is basically one of 3 ways. First is just selling that veteran producer right now, if you can, because this is a very big if, right? So this includes the likes of George Kittle, which I'm not really sure after the game on primetime where he gets 1 target or 2 targets, you're going to be able to flip.
I'm worried about Kittle.
Yeah, that's just a classic Niners game, though, right? You get a couple of those every year.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper is another one. Mike Evans, right? You just take one of these veteran now receivers, and you want to get on potentially a really good young player. That is a hard maybe if you can do it. The second way is just the trending down young player that just happens to be worth more than Tony, right? I'll give you a list. Najee Harris, who we just talked about. Worth more than Tony currently on keep trade cut. Treylon Burks, worth more than Tony on keep trade cut. Gabriel Davis, Jerry Jeudy. There's a good amount. Now, I don't think a lot of those would get accepted, but it doesn't hurt to offer them out, right? The struggling type of player that still has value, you could flip it into Tony, who could easily be worth a first round pick come a couple of weeks. And then
I have a quick question for you too, just for fun. I'm interested. How would you guys rank in terms of who would you rather have right now between Tony, Sky Moore, and Treylon Burks?
Treylon's a weird one.
I think I would have Sky Moore third. Picking between Tony and Burks is really hard because I wasn't as high as like JT was on Treylon Burks, but he was still a definite first round rookie draft pick for me. It was a definite first round pick. I thought there was no question he should go in the first round of rookie drafts, and I just said I'd pay 11 or 12 for Tony, which is on the back end. I would have had Burks' last rookie draft around 107 or something. So that's what makes it tough.
I think the thing that's weird for Treylon is that earlier in the season, he just wasn't playing enough snaps. Like when he was playing, he was getting targets. He just wasn't on the field.
Yeah, enough. No, his like targets and yards per snap was like a great rate. It's just he wasn't on the field a whole ton.
And then you get into he has that injury, that turf toe, which is a really tough
tricky
injury.
Yeah.
And then now you get him back finally. It wasn't a great week, but it wasn't horrible.
It's turf toe. It's gonna take him a week or two. This season's kind of been a wash for him, but I mean the Titans are still in the mix, so hopefully we get to see. Like it's not like they're gonna shut him down or anything. Tannehill's gonna be playing the rest of the season. I'm hoping the end of the year he kind of turns it on a bit, and then maybe he has like a playoff game showing that like boosts his value a ton for next season, like we saw with Gabe Davis last year. I don't know.
I would easily rather have Toney and Burks over Sky though. Right now,
I think same. Yeah, no,
even though I'm saying that Sky's the Juju replacement. Now with Juju out, we could see Sky actually have some production and massively boost his value.
I have a question: if with Juju out, if Sky Moore is still not really getting on the field, at what point do you become concerned with Sky Moore? Nothing.
You're already concerned with Sky
I mean, yeah, you're already concerned, but I mean, like to the point where you're like, fuck.
I think Sky Moore for me. Now, if I had Sky Moore, he'd be on my taxi because second round pick.
I think he should be.
And you have to remember, if we're just looking at all second round picks in existence, there is a much more likely chance that if he becomes good, it's going to happen next year or in year 3 than in year 1. That's another factor you have to consider.
Yep.
So if he was on my taxi, I'll just let him sit there. Like, what's the point? You can't sell him for just a late second right now, right?
It's hard to. No, for a late second, you can't.
But Toney versus Burks is very interesting. I think you have to take Burks.
For the upside, yeah.
But I can understand. The reason why Toney gives me a little bit of hesitation is just that because he's currently trending up right now, he really doesn't have to do anything crazy to now massively increase his value. It's already massively increasing.
If he has like 5 for 65 or 5 for 70 next week, you're going to see another jump.
And because he's on a really heavy passing offense, I just think that there's a pretty decent chance that happens. And this kind of goes back to the whole scheme thing with the Chiefs, right? One of the big reasons why Kelsey's able to eat more than any other tight end is because if you try to double Kelsey, that probably means you're playing one high looks and one-on-one on the outside and things like that.
Yeah.
Dude, you want to do that against Mahomes? That's why he has the crazy numbers that he has so far.
You have to go too high against Kansas City.
Like, yeah,
you have to.
You can't blitz Mahomes because he fucks you against the blitz.
Kansas City.
And if you want to go one high, God forbid he starts doing his Mahomes scramble around. After a couple seconds, it's almost like a guaranteed long touchdown.
You're cooked.
On top of the fact that they bring in guys like MVS and Nico Hardman, who aren't great, but that's their fucking job. Is if you want to play one-on-one coverage against them, then we're going to start doing merchant-ass double moves and bullshit, and Mahomes is going to be doing his stupid, I'm going to run 50 yards backwards, but I happen to be able to throw the ball 100 yards, so it doesn't fucking matter, right? Like, and who else is going to eat? Like, Toney made a living at Florida just doing this underneath crap, getting yak, right? So it's like there's a clear path for Toney having a good amount of success.
Kind of a similar thing with Kelsey back in college with Kyle Pitts.
So I just feel like there's a good path for Toney to become overvalued, whereas Treylon Burks, his path to being overvalued is just him becoming like a top 5 receiver in the league.
I was gonna say it won't really be an overvalue for Burks. It'll be
it'll just be like,
he's good.
He's AJ Brown. Like,
yeah, you guys laugh at me until I buy Toney for 112 and sell him for 106.
But I think given the profile and everything, I'd take Burks, but it's a lot closer than I would have expected.
Yeah. Let's get into
this rookie, is an interesting
Jake's guy.
So you talk about a dude
he looked
that
impressive.
Had a 1-week wonder glow up. Christian Watson.
1 week wonder.
So
I know your answer.
Okay. I shouldn't have phrased it like that, but I was going to say, go and find the week where he had a solid.
Oh no,
week.
yeah. No. Okay.
So as of right now, he's a 1 week wonder.
No, he is. I thought you meant 1 week wonder. Like this is going to be the only week.
I mean, the thing is, for me, it's a little tough to now say, "Oh, Christian Watson's the guy I want," when he had 4 catches, 3 of them happened to be touchdowns. But Jake, I want to hear from you because you're the one dude that.
That's how Julio's breakout
Watson.
game went.
Bader, great. Christian Watson.
This one
You look good.
it's really tough for me. Like, do I think Watson for the remainder of the season has earned Aaron Rodgers' trust? And that's a big thing in this offense. If you earned Aaron Rodgers' trust in terms of he knows he can go to you in a big time situation, that's worth a lot. So I think he has gotten that, but in terms of value, I still think he's bait. Rodgers looks finished, if not close to finished. Like, and once Rodgers is gone, this team is going full rebuild, and he's going to be stuck in a terrible offense. He's not going anywhere. He's on a rookie deal. I just think you might see some short-term uptick, and that's fine. I think his value will continue to grow until through the end of the year, and I don't expect Rodgers to retire. So I think through the offseason, he will continue to build value as well. So if you're looking at an investment like that, I think it's great. But if you're trying to buy him with the hopes of him turning into a top 5 receiver in the league, that's just bait. That is just bait right there.
No, not that. But I mean, like,
even turning into a top 12, even turning into a wide receiver 1, I just don't think that's realistic.
I don't think
the profile that he is.
He doesn't need to be that though. I think we've seen rookie drafts. He was drafted around like 111 to 203 in a lot of rookie drafts, kind of that end of first round, beginning of second round. You're not expecting a wide receiver 1 there. You will gladly take someone who ends up being a wide receiver 2 in their career.
The problem is that like people in the past few years have gotten very spoiled with the likes of Jaylen Waddle going in that range.
Waddle
Justin
and like
Jefferson,
T. Higgins.
Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, AJ Brown, they all went in that range where they go, oh, I got a really good receiver at the back end of the first, early second. Like, and now this year you had to take Christian Watson in that spot, and it just doesn't. It's right, Christian Watson, Sky Moore, and it just doesn't feel the same. It's not the same. So, like I said, I still think Christian Watson's a good player, and the fact like he will probably continue to grow and develop throughout the remainder of the season and into the offseason. So his value probably goes up in that sense. So if you wanted to hold him for now, I don't hate it and sell him in the offseason, but like in terms of thinking that he's going to be a reliable fantasy wide receiver 2 on a championship team, I don't think that's bait.
I think it's the thing though. I don't think his price is that high where you're expecting that outcome. Like, I think if he turns out
the problem is his price is that high because he
what is his
had
price
that
right now. Because I was gonna say, I think from when the people who drafted him last summer, if he ends up being as productive as like when you're drafting him a 111 to 203 in a draft class that you knew wasn't as strong as like the previous year or the year before that, like if he ends up like an Ayuk or Jerry Jeudy, like
he's currently ranked the same as Rashad Bateman, right below Pickett, Toney, and Miles
So he's
Sanders.
in that Mixon paradox more
early
than second.
Yeah,
he's at exactly the price you bought him at. If you're going with that, he's in that late first, early second rookie draft value, and I just think if I could re-roll the dice here, I might. I think I would like let him play out the season, let him build the value that I think he's going to build throughout the remainder of the season. Then come rookie draft time, say, hey, I got a young wide receiver that's tied to Aaron Rodgers. I'll give you him. Sure, give me your 107, and I'll move on. Be very happy. Even if it's less than
107,
yeah.
I'm talking whatever. It was
Twas how many years ago? Hold on, let me do some math here. 2018, 4 years ago.
Are you going to talk about Chase Claypool?
No.
Oh no. I thought you were going to compare this game to the Chase Claypool game against Philadelphia.
No, but I did make the right choice with Chase Claypool as of right now and sold him. But I did not with this player who was actually my pro comp for Christian Watson in the draft. So it was 4 or 5 years ago, a young Frank playing Dynasty, trying to win championship, win games, And I think I drafted him. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I did. And I had a nice, fast, big, electric receiver. He goes in. He wasn't playing for most of the year, and all of a sudden has a huge breakout game, scores like 20 points. It wasn't as many touchdowns, but he has a huge game for the Packers. A guy named Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And I remember going in, and I got, I think, 2 offers that contained a first-round pick in exchange for my Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And I was saying to myself, I don't know, young receiver, just had a great game, tied to Aaron Rodgers and a great Packers offense, 6'5", fast, has all the tools he can ask for. I'm gonna go great. And guess what? Not like 5 weeks later, I was kicking myself for not taking the opportunity to get that first-round pick.
Okay,
if I have Christian Watson, I don't care if you're getting a first-round pick for him straight up. You can meander yourself into a first-round pick. Just the same as you could do with fucking Bateman right now. You can go and offer Bateman plus for that first. I am saying bait on Christian Watson. I compared him to MVS in the freaking scouting process. If you remember, the first couple targets of that game, he dropped like 2 or 3 passes. Right?
He dropped 2. They were kind of tough. Okay, real quick. What round was MVS drafted in?
Who fucking knows?
That's the argument, is that he has the draft capital to back
Christian
it up.
Watson was an early second-round talent. It's not the same type of player. Okay, real quick, I will say, and it sounds like I'm defending Christian Watson saying great. If he can get a first-round pick, I assumed his value wasn't into the first round yet, which seems a little bit short. If you can get a first-round pick and you want to take the first-round pick, go for it. I'm all for that. I'm pro that move. I'm more so talking about, are you selling for like that 204 type selection? Are you selling at that? That's where I'm saying it becomes tough. If you can get a first, sure.
Yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't have to be for the draft pick, right? I can sell for DJ Moore. I can probably get into DJ Moore because the person who has DJ Moore is probably very grumpy right now. I can get into maybe Terry McLaurin because someone's going to say like, oh, sweet, I can use these couple recent games to sell Terry McLaurin. Dude, fine. I'll fucking trade my way into Terry McLaurin. Maybe I'll go into Zach Wilson or another quarterback from Christian Watson, right? Maybe I give Christian Watson and another halfway decent pick and get Dak Prescott or something along the lines of that. I just, at this current value, I just, like Jake said, feel like I can get a reroll. And I will take my reroll. Okay, if he becomes great, whatever. I'll watch from the sidelines. Good for you, man. But I think more times than not, this is going to not be a guy that gets the volume and is consistent enough that he can end up being even a high-end wide receiver too. So I'm selling. I'm saying bait.
If you can get the first, go for it. I struggle to sell a 204 or something like that. That's my take.
But dude, what if those 3 catches just aren't touchdowns? It's just like,
there are so many. There are so many types of those games you could bring up because you brought up the MVS one. Julio, obviously he's not Julio. Julio Jones' breakout game was a 3-catch game for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns when he had done nothing before that.
I just think it's a
6'5".
What's a more reasonable comparison?
Neither.
Or Julio Jones?
I don't think he's neither. Julio Jones is a top 5 talent. MVS was
the correct comparison is like Michael Pittman, someone fucking in the middle.
Yes,
but
yes.
But still, at the same time, I'm with Frank. I still think
if you can get the first, get the first. But
it's just because we've seen this song and dance before with the Packers. They have all these young wide receivers that are
this is the earliest
they've drafted.
This is the earliest receiver they've drafted since Davante Adams.
Yeah, listen, I'm the one that drafted him at 112. I understand this. Like, he has the upside, and I'm just willing to re-roll it pretty much for the same exact thing. If I could get 112 for him in this upcoming draft, I'm going to say thank you very much. I'm risk-free. I'm going to go take Tank Bigsby and just say, okay.
That's fair. Like I said, if you're getting a first-round pick, I won't argue with that at all. This next guy I think is interesting.
I mean, lastly, I even think for Watson, I might just because you're right. You're not going to get the first round pick. You're not going to get it straight up. Maybe if you get a guy that really likes Watson,
if you have a Green Bay
Watson
fan.
in a third or Watson in a second into a first, I think that's much more reasonable. But I'm at the point where I might sell for okay, if you think his value is an early second, well, what if I can get an early second plus, because it's that second round pick, right? You can use that argument in your leagues where it's like, dude, I'm not going to sell him for a second round pick. Okay, what about 2 seconds, right? An early second and then a random second. Okay, now we're getting to an offer that I might accept. And I just whatever that value is on Keep Trade Cut, maybe I hold for another week or two. I'm just going to be shopping him right now. I'm going to be heavily shopping him.
That's fair. I think it is fair to shop. I would see what I can get, see how close I can get to that first round.
Because I just think that when you look at Christian Watson, a lot of the reason you like him is a little bit bait. You the first thing you point to, he's 6'5" and he's fast. But then you compare his technical ability, right? His route running, his hands, a lot of the intangibles. What really separates the top receivers in the league from the schmucks. I just think he's nowhere near the level of any of the top 24 receivers right now. That's the same reason I sold Claypool. Is that, I think he's a good player. He still has potential. He can still grow. But what's more likely? Claypool, after his rookie season, who was not a very developed player coming out and wasn't very developed after his rookie year, becoming a top 10 receiver and becoming Megatron, or being mid?
He doesn't have to be top 10 for me. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think Claypool is an interesting comparison. What was in the comments?
Lounis taking the side of Toney and Watson is so on brand.
It is on brand. What I will say is this. What is it? Sheep Lounis in full force. Oh, you would still have Sky. I'm just reading these chats. JT, you would have Sky more over Toney. Yeah, that's why the Chiefs traded for him.
Jordan Love, AJ Dillon, Watson, Dobbs, and Tanya.
What was I going to say? Would you guys rather have Romeo Dobbs or Christian Watson right now in Dynasty?
I'd personally rather have Watson.
I think I would take Watson also.
It's closer than I'd like to say, but
it's close. Yeah, Dobbs has been impressive.
I think Dobbs is the better player.
Who would you rather have in Dynasty?
Okay.
Don't give us this cop-out answer. Watson, Dobbs. Who would you rather have in Dynasty?
I think Dobbs is the better player.
So you're taking Dobbs in Dynasty over Christian Watson?
I think Romeo Dobbs is the better receiver.
So are you? Yes, I would take Dobbs over.
I think the real question is, at cost, who would you rather have?
No, straight up.
The thing is, the cost isn't that different right now.
It's not that different.
That's
straight
the problem.
Up. You have Romeo Dobbs. Someone comes to you and offers you Christian Watson, straight, flat, player-for-player trade.
Well, see, that's a dumb argument to me because they're not the same price. They are not the same price.
I'm asking if you would accept that trade or not.
I would not, because I could just turn around.
So you wouldn't.
No, because here's the thing. I could turn around, sell Christian Watson for more, and then buy Dobbs.
No, okay, I'm just asking you. Which one would you rather have? Straight up, one against the other.
I think Dobbs is the better player.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I would take Dobbs. I'm not talking about Dobbs.
I feel like I'm on an interview and you're trying to get that clickbait headline.
Yeah. I'm one of those interviews trying to get the quote.
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to say it.
All right, let's move on to the next guy. He's pretty interesting.
Yeah, Rachaad White. So Rachaad White there were rumblings last week that he would take over, not necessarily take over Lenny in the backfield, but he would see a lot more volume, and that happened. Then Lenny picks up like a back injury or something, and you saw Rachaad White really take over the backfield. Big emphasis on the Buccaneers this week for trying to run the football. Rachaad White is over 100 yards. Bader,
I thought he looked good. Here's the thing, though. I thought he looked good, and I think he's going to be a good player. But when I went on Keep Trade Cut and I already saw what his price had jumped to, I'm like, I can't go that far.
I'm going easy bait here. I think this is a massive.
Because I was going to say, I wanted to say great until I saw what the reaction was and what his price jumped to. And now I say bait because his price is way higher than I thought it'd be after that game. And so, yeah, I'll take the value on him. He jumped to like RB20. He jumped ahead of guys like, I can pull it up, but like, let me find it. He jumped to RB21, leaving him ahead of running backs. Let me pull up the running back list. He's ahead of J.K. Dobbins. He's ahead of Miles Sanders. I can't go that far yet.
I think that he's just a worse Khalil Herbert, if we're being honest. And large part of the reason why he was so productive in that game was that we finally saw the Bucs offensive line actually have some dominance up front.
Yeah.
And Rachaad White played well, right? He has that nasty
No, that's what I'm saying. I think
he had some good runs. But if you were to ask me, was he a product of Rachaad White playing well, or was he just happened to be a product of people handing him the football? I think he happened to be a product of volume. And if you're asking me now from the Dynasty perspective, you start looking at that price. Dude, if you get that price, I'm easily selling. Because, and same thing with Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert, I loved. I joined leagues just to draft Khalil Herbert in startups. But now you're getting into this range where you can sell them for very early seconds, potentially even late firsts and things, right? Like, no, that's crazy, dude. Compare him to the actual running backs that should be deserving of a first-round pick. And I just think Rachaad White is not near that type of player. So whether you're selling him for a pick or a receiver, I'm just out on him.
I think that's fair. Go ahead, Jake.
The problem with Rachaad White is that Brady he's any given second is retiring. And once he goes, this Bucs team is just a distant memory. You're not going to fucking think about them once Tom Brady's gone, unless they end up with the likes of Bryce Young, which is just never going to happen because they'll be too good. Or whoever the next top quarterback is.
Derek Carr.
I mean, Derek Carr's a possibility, but even then, like
their best bet is to get a quarterback that's already in the NFL. They're not going to get one of the top guys. But
right. So, at that point, that team, especially that offense, is just going to be mediocre. And they're what? You're going to have a mediocre running back splitting carries? Like, great, have fun. I'll take my first round pick if you're going to give it to me right now.
Yeah, no, it's a shame. I was ready to come on the pod and talk about how I was impressed by him, and then before the pod I was looking at like how the values have changed and everything, and naturally the Dynasty community just completely drove his value up, and so at this price he has to be a sell. In no world am I taking him over. I think we can all be
impressed by his performance, because I was as well. I was very low on Rachaad White in the draft season, right? I had a do not touch grade on him.
Yeah.
And listen, he played well. He played better than I expected him to. But there's something to be said about a backup level running back coming in and playing well versus a guy that I want to invest actual assets in to hold long term.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Like, let's be real. I think if you put Donta Foreman in that situation, he has the same level of production.
Foreman's had better numbers.
I think that at the end of the day, Rachaad White, he needs to show me something that he's above a average level replacement running back type guy.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you. Gus Edwards has had these games.
So if I'm a contender, I'm doing whatever I can to, talk. I'm a retooling team. One of my leagues, we're actually going to talk about this later, so I won't go too far into it. But if I can flip basically minimal assets on top of Rachaad White and get Dalvin Cook, I'm not even a huge Dalvin Cook guy, but I feel like I'm trading a backup running back that happened to be thrusted into a good spot for an actual running back that, even though I might not love Dalvin Cook, every year is in the top 10 points per game. And I can do that for like, what, a second round pick? Fuck yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I'm the same way.
Or like any of these decent young receivers.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one. I put this one on here, so I'll kick it off.
Yeah, you can go.
Parris Campbell. The reason I put it on here, right? He has a good week last week. If you look at his past like 4 games with Matt Ryan starting, I'm pretty sure he's averaged like 10 targets and 70 yards. So, guy that formerly was a high pick, a lot of people, myself included, gave up on him. If you want to get back into Parris Campbell, it's not going to cost you much more than a third, if at all. Could be the type of player that we see the Colts really revamped. They have that chip on their shoulder with Jeff Saturday, Matt Ryan back as the starter, that you can pick up as a flex player for very cheap in a playoff run. Maybe bait or great isn't the right topic to put him in, but I'm throwing him in here. I actually think that Parris Campbell is one of the players that has changed my mind for this. Now, I'm still going to try and sell, but I was just curious to see what you guys thought and if you think there's any potential greatness in Parris Campbell. So maybe he hasn't changed my mind now. I said he changed my mind. No, he hasn't.
No. Again, this team is in complete disarray. They need a new quarterback. The offensive line doesn't look like it used to. And Jonathan Taylor, I know he looked good this week, but this rest of the season he hasn't. They hired Jeff Saturday as their head coach. Like, do I think that's a long-term replacement? To be determined. I like what I saw this week, but still to be determined. So I just think I'm staying away from this Colts situation right now. Maybe I'd buy into Michael Pittman just because I liked him as a prospect and he's just underproducing with a not as good quarterback right now. But Parris Campbell, he's had his chance in the league and he's been all right. And I think he's proven he's an NFL caliber player, not so much of a fantasy player.
Yeah, I don't know. Just wanted to bring him up. Like, as I was saying that, I was thinking, like, yeah, Parris Campbell is not the guy I want to spend a third-round pick on. So I don't even want to say that he's bait, but, like, third-round pick bait? You know, don't spend your third on him, I guess?
I don't even, like you said, I don't even want to do that. Like, it's just, like, it just doesn't feel great to spend a third on a guy that may not even be your flex. Like,
yeah, I thought about it, and then I thought about it more, and I was like, oh, yeah, give me the third. So, whatever. All right, Cole Kmet. Bait or great. So, guy that really struggled early in the season, a guy that I liked a lot early in the season, and now has actually been producing. He scored touchdowns like each of the past 2 or 3 games. In this, new Justin Fields-led offense, it seems like. He's been a main beneficiary of it. I'm going to start this one off. I'm going to say this is a massive bait.
I actually agree with you. I think Cole Kmet's it's probably a second. Like, let's be real. No one's selling him for less than a second at this point. So,
yeah, I'm with you guys.
This offense looks like it's going to be a ground heavy offense, which is fine, but like that doesn't leave a whole lot of room for Cole Kmet. At the end of the day, I think he's a waste lord tight end that is like going to be touchdown dependent like the rest of all the other tight ends. Like, he's fine. You can start him in a pinch, but you don't love it.
And I will say, while he might kind of be somewhat productive these last couple weeks, I agree with these guys. It's going to be the perfect time to sell, because you're going to have Mooney there, you're going to have Claypool there, and if you guys don't think Chicago's going to bring in another receiver for Justin Fields, or even maybe like a tight end, whatever it may be, they're going to get him another receiver this offseason. It only kind of hurts his targets even more. So I'm with you guys on selling. If you can get any second-round pick for any year, I'm for it.
Yeah, I think that from watching these Bears games, the touchdown he caught last week was just schemed up. He was wide open.
Yeah.
be like, let's play the game. Who is he closer to? After watching the games this year, the Bears, is he closer to Dallas Goedert or is he closer to Hayden Hurst?
It's closer to Hayden Hurst.
It's closer to Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst is a dude that for years now you pick up for a third as a waste lord tight end.
I was gonna say I like Kmet if you get him for a third, I think that's fine. Am I giving up any second for him? No.
See, my opinion is that, and I did this in a league. I sold Kmet in a third for a second.
I
would do that. I would sell Kmet obviously for a second straight up. Any second in the league, I would mass offer him for. If I was really rebuilding, I might even sell him for a third right now because, in my opinion, 2 years later, when he's probably going to be more consistent, I could probably just buy him for a third back. So I can let someone else, I can sell off for now, let someone else deal with the bullshit and have a tight end on, let me check, the offense that passes the ball less than the Falcons and buy it back when they might pass more than the last team in the league.
And as much as we were talking about it earlier, as much as I like Justin Fields, and I think I do believe in him, and I think he can be a franchise quarterback, he still only has one game this year above 200 yards passing. It's not an offense that's going to be able to support multiple guys.
So and you see like they have Mooney still, they bring in Claypool, like go in the Bears offense with Justin Fields. Like
it's touchdown dependent. It's like all those waste lord tight ends.
I just
like if you're talking
I think Kmet is an easy sell right now.
If it's like touchdown dependent, if Rodgers is staying in Green Bay, you can go and buy like Tunyon for a late third, and he's the same kind of touchdown dependent tight end. So that's my stance.
All right, damn, this episode ran long. I didn't realize we were already an hour and 40 in. Jesus.
This was a good sode though.
I sold Fields for Bateman and one quarterback. Might have been a mistake.
But probably when you did that, it wasn't crazy because I'm assuming that was probably earlier this season. Bateman's
one
tricky.
QB's weird though. I don't know.
Yeah, my value gets fully thrown off. You should convince them to switch. Actually, no, you shouldn't convince them to switch to Superflex because then it would look even worse for you.
I think it stinks just because of Justin Fields. Like, I mean, if he's able to keep doing this crazy rushing stuff, then yeah, that's gonna sting. But
he's been a fantasy cheat code the past couple of weeks.
Like, how much does Lamar go for on one QB? Is he's worth the first still, right?
Probably Lamar first, yeah. Only those like elite, like Lamar, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Herbert.
I mean, I can tell you. Hold on.
I think those are the only 4 for one QB that could be worth the first.
So if you take off Superflex on keep trade cut, that leaves Josh Allen, by the way, still the 3rd overall player. And Mahomes is at 13, so just outside the first round.
Wait, what?
In one QB?
Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts is QB3 at 20 overall. Lamar Jackson QB4 at 22 overall. So he's set, like right there. Startup.
Is it me or does that just not make any sense?
What do you mean?
One QB values are weird.
Why is Josh Allen a top 3 dynasty player and then Mahomes, Jaylen, like all these other quarterbacks aren't even in the first round? That makes no sense to me.
I don't understand that either.
I don't know. He's been the QB1 for 2 years in a row. He puts up he has the rushing floor that people look for. He has the weapons. He's on a good team. I don't know. I don't play one QB anymore, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, and if that's the value, give me Lamar at the 1 round later versus Josh Allen any other week.
See, I think the thing with one QB that you can get away with is that you can make more of an excuse for just giving up assets for a quarterback whose future's uncertain. Because okay, if that guy shits out, it's like okay, well, I only need to replace one guy, right? Yeah. Like. You know, I can easily give up my early second for whoever the current Stafford is or the Dak Prescott and get low-level quarterback 1 production. Like, I think that's the thing that's super flex. It's like the thing with Superflex is that it makes having that really stable, good quarterback super important because it's like there's not a ton of them. They score the most points of anyone in the league, and now you just have stability to build your team around the guys who score the most and last the longest.
Like the next decade. Also,
so
like if you have a Mahomes or if you have like a Herbert or Lamar or Burrow, you just plug them in. You're set for the next 10 plus years.
Metcalf for Lamar happened in my league because 10-point advantage at position over average quarterback. Yeah, but the thing is that how much more points is Lamar or Josh Allen scoring compared to like QB8?
Yeah.
Because QB8 now is a below average quarterback in one QB.
Yeah. One QB is weird. I can't. I wouldn't be able to give you the best advice for.
So
one
like
QB.
yeah, Kyler Murray is like an under average quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And one QB like. Yeah, so I mean, value wise, it might be unfortunate, but it's not like it's gonna kill you.
No, one QB it won't. But yeah, I can't give the absolute bet. My whole evaluations and everything with Dynasty has been with Superflex, and mine is kind of I'm not as familiar with the one QB for Dynasty.
But all right, that's going to do it from us here. If you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps us out. We'll be back tomorrow for the Dynasty stock market at 7:30.
Yes.
So tune in for that if you're interested in some more Dynasty content. But if not, we'll catch you next Tuesday. Peace out. Have a good one.
See you guys. Thank you.